Y'all been coconut mold. Hi. Hello. Why are you so loud? Stop being so loud. Thank you very much. Hi. I'm here. I'm back. I'm alive. I didn't fucking explode from the heat. It was close though. They almost had us in the first half. I'm not gonna lie. Hi Fudge. Your time to be first, but Ruby. Hi. Welcome being first. Hi. Hello. Hi. I'm here. If you guys hear a fan on the mic, I apologize. It's still fucking hot. It is mid 80s in my room, which is, it's bearable. I'll tell you that. It'll probably not be bearable as long as the stream goes on. I'm not gonna lie, but I will do my best. Great Flavor Dragon. And it's not hearable. Oh, you want it to be hearable? Yeah. Now you probably hear it. Sorry, that's my second fan that I have from when my first one dies. Anyway, how you guys doing? How's your week been? Swipe. I'm scared to put that emote as like an actual emote because like Chris doesn't like stuff like that. I get scared. What was I gonna say? Also, no, I'm not grape. I'm part grape, part like what's a pink fruit? I mean, technically, like dragon fruit is like pink because like strawberries are red. So that's I'm like, I think dragon fruit's more pink than any other fruit in existence, you know? Right? Because like a lot of people think watermelon is pink, but it's red, honestly. Grapefruit, maybe? I guess, yeah. Grapefruit is kinda pink on the inside as well. So maybe like a mixture of grapefruit, and dragon fruit, which is an interesting combination. Actually, I've never had something like that. It's a little bit of sour with sweet. Anyway, sorry I didn't get to stream yesterday. It was almost 100 fucking degrees yesterday. I was fucking dying for most of the day. Salad and smoothie, honestly, that does sound really good. Grapefruit doesn't get used very often in smoothies, specifically in what's the word? Commercial products, because there are a lot of people as they get older can't have grapefruit. I forget why. I can Google that shit right now while we're talking, actually. But like, my dad is one of those people. Like, he used to love like the soda Squirt, because it's the only grapefruit soda on the market. But as he got older, he wasn't able to have grapefruit no more. What's grapefruit? What does it do? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, it messes with people that need blood pressure drugs, things like that. Yeah. Yeah, so like grapefruit just has things that fuck up specific chemicals, just making you absorb them much faster, which could lead to overdose. Which is why a lot of times when you're having like a very strong medication, they probably will tell you don't eat grapefruit alongside this. Nevertheless, Squirt was grapefruit. Yep, it is the only grapefruit drink on the market, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. That's another Googleable thing. Hang on. Hang on. But that's also why the flavor of Squirt is very distinct, right? Because like Coke and Pepsi are very similar. Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb are very similar because they're all that, like, it's cola or it's whatever that specific Dr. Pepper cola is. Then there's like 7-Up and Sprite, which is lemon lime. But there's nothing really like Squirt because it's grapefruit. Grapefruit soda. Is Squirt the only grapefruit soda? It is not. Jarritos doesn't count. That also doesn't count. Fresca, okay. And a Caribbean soda called Ting, which I don't count either. So technically, it is the only grapefruit soda on the market. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, oh, Jarritos Toronja, which is grapefruit in Spanish. I'm like, doesn't really count. I don't know. Having something that has multiple flavors, I feel like shouldn't count, if that makes sense. Cactus cooler though, yeah. But yeah, I think it's the only like popular branded one, I guess, if you want to call it that. In that case, from what I've read. Anyway, yes, it is grapefruit. So if you've wondered why Squirt is such a unique flavor, it is grapefruit. It is not lemon lime. It's not orange. It's not any other citrus. It is grapefruit specifically. Anyway, this week at work was honestly pretty boring. I actually got off work early on Tuesday. That's how slow it was. Hi, boss. Hello. Hi. But this coming week is gonna be a fucking pain in my ass. I was told as I was getting in, I think Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember. I think it was Saturday, that for some reason next week, like half of the fucking people working just requested the whole weekend off, and I'm like, oh, isn't that fun? I guess I'm glad I'm not one of them, says the sarcastic dragon. Can you hear the panic in my voice? Anyway, so this weekend's gonna suck for me for work, but I'll be fine. But besides that, it's not gonna be as hot this coming week. Let me just check that shit so I'm not just lying to everybody. It will be cooler, but not by much. in this coming week, so stream should hopefully not be affected. What was I gonna say? I apologize if there's gonna be the only stream I get to do this week. I had plans, I made plans for Friday, so I was hoping to get 2 streams done for you guys yesterday and today, but just, yeah, the weather happened, so I can't really cancel my plans for Friday. So I mean, I guess I could, but I don't wanna. I'm not one to cancel plans. I don't make plans very often, so like when I make them, I want to fucking keep them. That's just me. Anyway, I don't know if you guys been keeping track of Twitter. I had a post that kind of exploded, and then somebody just like gave me art, and I'm like, oh, well, shit. Thank you. I think it's officially the first piece of fan art I've technically gotten, if that makes sense. A date? Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Rinkum yibby, rinkum yibby, rinkum yibby, rinkum
Yibby. Hi, Rage. Thank you. Thank you for 18 months. Hi, look at him. Fan, I mean, yeah. Hello, hi. I consider that fan art, because like pretty much every other piece of art I have, I commissioned. So like, considering this person that was just here, can I draw you? I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then they send me the art. I'm like, oh shit, they weren't lying. Because I was told that like 2 years ago by somebody, like, oh, I want to draw you. I'm like, okay, never happened. Then they disappeared from the community. So okay, yeah, it was, again, super nice. That's like that's why I consider that fan art, because it's like I didn't commission it, I didn't ask somebody to do it, somebody wanted to do it, so I'm like, okay, fuck it, you can do it. Like, obviously, because I said I gave the go ahead, people could be like, oh, it's not because you said to it. I'm like, this person was just being polite, because like they draw very voluptuous women in precarious situations, so I assume they were just being polite. Anyway, it's fat titty art, and if you guys want to see it, it's on Twitter. It is technically not safe for work, but at the same time, it is safer for work than everything else they've drawn. Anyway, how are you doing, Rage? How's your Thursday? How's your week? How's everybody's week going? Today it's retro night as always. I'm not gonna skip out on that just because I missed out on yesterday. What was I gonna say? Also, yeah, I was talking about the one that I reposted, not the one that I posted myself. That one I commissioned. Anyway, we're gonna be doing retro today. If you guys have not figured out the game that I'm playing, it is a fighting game that contains Link from Legend of Zelda, and technically also Kratos, and fun, but it's version exclusive. It is Soul Calibur 2 for the Nintendo GameCube specifically, which I think was honestly pretty cool that the game just decided, like, I think it's Capcom, right? Or Namco? I think it's Bamco, not Bandai Namco. I think it's cool that they decided, for some reason, that specific fighting game generation, like, hey, depending on what version of the game you have one different character to play as. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I think it's the only time in forever, right? It's one of the few times Nintendo has ever given away one of their proprietary characters to another video game, which is pretty fucking cool. Because, like, what are all the games that have a Link in them that are not Nintendo games? You could think about it. Yeah, they had full Star Wars characters in Calibur 4, but you can think about it as, I think the CDIs technically are not Nintendo games because they're made by Philips. So there's those were the first ones. I think Soul Calibur 2 is probably the second one. You can think of it as Smash Brothers, but that was technically also in-house. But it's essentially the Philips CDI games. You could count Smash Brothers, but I'm not going to count Smash Brothers. Soul Calibur 2, and I think they never gave up another non-Mario character, or a character from Nintendo for a non-Nintendo game until... Is it actually Cadence of Hyrule? I think it's actually Cadence of Hyrule. Maybe the Mario DDR. I forget if that was made by Nintendo or if they're the third party of that shit. I don't remember. Does it see been in a new Soul Calibur game? I mean, is Soul Calibur still around? I don't think it is, right? When did the last Soul Calibur game come out? Is it 6 or was it 7? I know it's the funny number, but like that's like a legitimate question. I think I remember 6 existing, but not 7. Soul Calibur and Dead franchise. That's so funny. Like one of the first questions. Yeah, so 6 is the last one, 2018. So it's been 8 years since the last Soul Calibur game. So the franchise is not dead. I don't remember ever playing Soul Calibur 6. I remember I played 2. I played 3 because I believe wasn't 3 the introduction of Zasalamel, which I thought was really fucking cool because I like him. I was not very good. I couldn't do his combos very well, but I was okay enough to pull some cool shit off. I think I did 4 for a little bit because I think no, I never played 4. I did 5. I skipped 4. I went to 5. I'm pretty sure because doesn't 5 have like punished Siegfried or something? I don't know what I want to call it, right? But it's like Siegfried that is being re-corrupted by Soul Edge. It's something like that, right? Like, I don't remember, but I feel like 5 is one where it's like Siegfried is there again and he's just has Soul Edge with him instead of whatever blade he had that was countering Soul Edge. What's it, Soul Calibur? I don't remember. Either way, I don't remember the story of Soul Calibur at all. I just know Soul Edge is just like, it's a fucking parasite, essentially. If you want to think about it, if you're a League of Legends player, it's a fucking, it's a Darkin. But anyway, I kind of want to get to play in. I might not play this game for long, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But there's a very good chance I do. And what I want to do, initially, I want to do one arcade mode, because I forget if arcade unlocks character weapons or outfits, because they have character stats in this game outside of Versus. But I think you have to clear characters arcade modes to unlock them at first. But I do know there is a and I'm gonna play this like a RPG mode, technically, if you want to call it that. They also tell me how the noise is. It's quiet right now. It will be blank until I get to like the menu. Ivy, my beloved. I remember I was able to do one cool thing with Ivy and nothing else ever. But maybe I could try it in practice mode to see if I can do it again. Also, I'm not playing on a GameCube controller. I thought I had a USB one. I don't. So I'm just playing on a PS5 controller, which doesn't have the same map layout. But anyway, I haven't seen this in a long time, so I want to watch this opening. It is Namco. This is before Bandai took them over, huh? This was like 2003, 2004 or something.
Tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
Soul Calibur. Sophia. No, that's Cassandra. Sorry. I don't want to mix up. Also, sorry, I'm playing on an emulator with a not great file. Dolphin literally tells me, hey, this is not a good file. It might lag a little bit. I'm like, it's fine. But when I was testing it, it wasn't lagging. So I think it's just like the pre-rendered cutscenes that might fuck you up. It's Link! Look at him! He looks so goofy. Talim, my beloved. I fucking love Talim. I think I was a Talim main outside of... Oh, it exploded. I might have to skip the cutscene. Yeah, let's skip the cutscene. Let's just say no and say we did. Skip it! Go forward was a kind. It says like it was like N arcade or something like that. Not the same file that Like, not the file that it wants, apparently. I'm gonna reset the game, by the way. It is nkit, which is not apparently the normal disk file that it uses. I'm just gonna skip it. The game was fine when I tested it. I didn't test cutscenes. Which link is this? This is Ocarina of Time link, because I believe Wind Waker probably didn't exist at this time. I'm skipping the cutscenes, and if things don't work, I'll play something else in the meantime. Hey, look, it's fine. We're okay. Also, if there's supposed to be sound, I don't remember. Anyway, we're going through arcade. There we go. We're okay. Look, it's Ivy! Look at her. Big titties and all. Speaking of big titties, we got Taki. She's not as shiny as I remember. That might be a Soul Calibur 4 thing. Shanghua. Cassandra. Where's Sophitia? Do you unlock Sophitia? There's a way to clean it. Ah, that's fine. I'll take a look at that later. But honestly, my Dolphin never used to give me that error until I updated it. Not error, but warning. So I'm guessing it's just like a, not a modern thing, but like a thing they figured out relatively recently. Anyway, who am I gonna play? Fucking Link, who else? And also, you only get 2 outfits right now, red and green. I go classic. Taki, big titties. She even has nipples, I just realized.
Her shadow moves with stealth and disappears into darkness.
I do remember how to play a little bit of Link, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm through with words.
Battle 1. Fight.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye. I also love how I can just beat the shit out of people while they're getting knocked out. I win. Wee. Uh-oh. I'm dying. Sorry, a little bit of lag. Moves junk data to remove compress the game. Oh, so maybe that's what's causing a little bit of lag.
For souls, an evil force enslaves him.
No wonder this game is like 20 to 30 megabytes smaller than every other game in my library. That's probably why.
Fight.
Nope. Souls, come on to me, haha. Oh. No. Bonk. Whee. I had no idea this was different. What they called GameCube files.
Battle 2. Fight.
Ow. I forgot I have that attack. Bye-bye. Yes, it just has a file size. Oh, okay. So technically, nkits aren't bad. They're just okay. They're just not. I mean, probably not tested. I'm assuming not tested well. Hi, Tano.
The man from the black mist bore the light.
Welcome in. How you doing?
Battle 1.
You know what's funny about Link? He has like no moveset. Ooh. Fuck you. Haha. I forgot I have a spin attack in this game. My cookie, hi. Ow. Ah. Ooh. No. Ow. Ooh. I'm gonna lose. I'm kidding, I'm never gonna lose this game. Bye-bye. How's your day been? My day's been pretty good. How are you guys doing? Look at him. He's just like, oh, I'm getting my ass beat by a fucking. Hi, Cassandra.
If the love for her
Where's Sophitia? You have to unlock her.
fight.
I forgot there's a parry in this game too. Stop. Ooh. I'm losing. Must be one of the original. So, oh, okay. So maybe I just have the wrong settings potentially. Ooh. Chill, girl. Hell yeah, I love this grab. Just fucking ride them cowboy. Wee. Ooh. 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 No. Wee. Ooh. I'm gonna lose. No, I'm not. Bye. Nightmare's my man? Yeah, I like Nightmare. Think not much is going on. Getting back to Skyrim? Ooh, that's cool. I think Sophitia was my favorite. No butt bumps. No. Ooh. Ow. Oh god. No. Like it never like that. Yeah, no, he never has. Not even in Tears of the Kingdom does he move like that. I lost. I'm not very good at this game. Ow. No. Ooh. Oh my god, I have no health. Nah. I don't remember this game being this hard in the arcade, but I'm not gonna lie. I have a bow and you don't. Ow. Bye-bye. Sorry, she just stood there. I kind of had to do it to her. You win. Yeah. No. Got her. No. No. Sorry, I wanted to crack her back there. She kind of needed a little massage after what I did to her. You win. I love Voldo. He's such a little freak.
The power of darkness turns the gears of madness once again.
I might need to turn the volume up. I kind of like hearing this right now. Hang on. Pause. Pause the game. Let me turn this up a little bit. Give me a second. The volume's already maxed there. It'll increase it in Windows. I remember this fucking music is great in this game too. Also, yes, this isn't a very comfy game today because there's a lot of screaming going on. So I gotta make it a little bigger because we're in 4x3 today. Okay, I'm ready. Oh my god. Oh no. Oh my god. No. Bye bye. Taste the unblockable, bitch. I like doing this attack. It just does a lot of damage and it's unblockable. No, the game's a little loud for you guys now. I need to turn it down a little bit. Ow. Ooh. Oh, he knows how to counter link. Haha, bye. Oh my god. My favorite little freak is kicking my ass. Bye-bye. Okay, I need to turn it down a little bit for you guys. Should be good. I win. Oh, it's still a little loud. Oh my god, that noise was very loud.
Versus Mitsurugi.
Mitsurugi! My favorite samurai. Bye. I'm ready.
Fine. I accept your challenge. Battle
You
one.
better.
Fight.
Ow! Get up. Hiya! Like how it says knockout and we're fucking beating people up with real fucking weapons. I'm pretty sure this guy's dead.
You win. Battle 2. Fight.
Hehe. Ooh, but... Bye-bye. Yeah. Sorry, I had to do the finishing blow. This was a Zelda game, right? Also, I really like how this model is very much, like, on design, I guess.
Raphael.
I still don't understand why this is a destined battle for Link.
Watch quietly and learn.
I guess because it's two swords masters together, but then I feel like Mitsurugi could be a better fighter for him. Chill, my guy. Oh god. Ooh. Oh, he knew I was gonna try to parry him.
You lose. You are not even worth killing.
Ow, that's kind of rude. Alright, fuck you. Uh-oh. Bye-bye. Oh my god, I got a perfect on him. Haha. Eat shit, Raphael.
You win. Final battle. Fight.
Same thing again. Oh god, wrong button. Stop. Okay. Oh god. Oh. Oh, he was ready. I lose. I'm glad this infinite continues in this game though. We do it again. Ow. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, the game doesn't like it. Whatever I try to do. It doesn't like me. Ooh. Haha. I think it doesn't like the music, and that's probably what it is. Whee! I like doing the Pegasus boot attack.
Battle 2. Fight.
Stupid. Bye-bye. Ugh. Oh, I remember the final fight in this game. It might lag my computer again. Yeah, I remember the final fight in this game. It's just straight up fucking Soul Edge. It's so cool. I like how instead of talking, Link just goes.
Inferno. The seal was broken, and a new era of terror has begun.
You just fight against like 3 facsimiles of real characters.
Final battle. Fight.
Uh oh. Like I said, it's gonna make me lag because these fucking particles are not gonna like it. That's not good for me. And next.
Fight.
Okay, this one was quick. Last one is Taki, I think. No, it's Ivy. Why the hell is that Ivy? Ooh. Oh my god, we're good. We win. I win. Is that's Soul Calibur, right? Like half the characters get Soul Calibur, half of them get Soul Edge. If I remember. No. I think everybody gets Soul Edge, and only some of them get Soul Calibur as like a final weapon in this game. We did it! Link came to this world in order to defeat the evil witch dragon Hyrule. Okay, I didn't know that. After a long journey, Link finally succeeded in sealing away the terrible evil. That was supposed to be Ganon then? I like this art though. Doing so, he not only saved his homeland from peril, but also maintained the tranquility of this world. Ah, he saved the day. Link then quietly left this world to think that gold of his ocarina was all that remained. And guys, it's Ocarina of Time Link. And that's it. Game over. Did I unlock anything? I don't remember. If not, it's fine. We did it! Technically, I get every other character. Oh, there's so much shit to unlock. Extra, oh yeah, extra arcade mode is where you can use the weapons that have like stats on them. Oh, that's right. You can fucking buy things in this game. I forgot. Right? Can't you? No, never mind. I was wrong. Anyway, weapon match is what I actually wanted to play. My name is Rin. It is a little like mission mode. It has a story and I don't remember what it is. Chosen by history, a man becomes a warrior. Engraved into history, a warrior becomes a hero. What the fuck? Let me read! Fuck you, video game. Let me read! The legends and sword of no soul can ultimate weapon refers to the sword of heroes, a phantom sword of immeasurable power. A panache to curl in is a sword as words, which is unmistakably evil. Spirit sword called Soul Calibur. I do remember Soul Calibur. 2 swords clash many times, blah blah blah. So good and evil, right? Soul Edge is evil, Soul Calibur is good. This is so fast. Nobody can fucking read this, by the way. Oh, like I can't even read this out loud fast enough. I can read it silently. Who is a world where a desire can realize with enough strength and will. Yippee! Tano, do you like the emotes? I think you like the emotes. This is your tale of sword and swords. Is Soul Blade the same as Soul Calibur? Because I remember on PS1 having a game called Soul Blade, I think it was called. In Weapon Master mode, press start up in the command menu, where you control, blah blah blah. For the chance to have a character recommend by character you choose, up to you. And weapons you can unlock hidden extras as well. Anyway, bye. So yeah, I can just play whoever the fuck I want. How do I unlock other characters? I don't remember anymore. Chapter 1, Regulus Proving Grounds. Hang on, I gotta look this up. How do I unlock more characters? Ba -ba 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 -ba. Still playing today? No, you're good. I'm curious. How do you unlock them? Oh, okay. So yeah, you do unlock them just by playing through this particular story mode. That's good. You stood before the entrance to the Proving Ground in the lands of Regulus, famous for the skilled swordsman. You predicted that your journey to find the ultimate Soul Age, would likely be a difficult one. Therefore, you traveled to Regulus in order to polish your fighting skills before setting off on your quest. After passing through the gate, you found a man standing before you, blocking your path. Halt! You who seek mastery of the way of the warrior, we have no interest in those who lack potential. First, you must prove your worth. You seem to have to fight this man to prove your strength and determination. Seeing you take hold of your weapon, without a moment's hesitation, the man grinned and said, "Well, looks like we got a lively one here. Good. Think this one's got some promise." But yeah, it's just mission mode. It's pretty cool. It's just win. It teaches this teaches you how to fight the game. It's tutorial basically. Hi. Sorry, I meant to say hi, not ho. What do you want me to do? Okay. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. I can run. Yeah. Guard impact. All right. I do remember how to do this. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. Oh, it looks really cool too. Soul charge. I don't remember this anymore. I gotta press all the buttons. Oh no, I can do this, right? Yeah, it's press the fucking Z button. I remember now. He said told me how to use it, so I fucking used it. A new feature has been unlocked. What did I get? Oh, practice mode. Whatever. Yeah, how you doing, Undead? A new stage has arrived. Utilize all you have learned. Oh, that's right. There's a fucking story. Having completed your basic training, you traveled with Edgar to the advanced proving grounds of the Bullock Ruins. After half a day's walk, you arrived at a crumbling rampart. This defensive wall was created during a war here in Regulus. At that same time, this proving ground was built to train the soldiers. Our predecessors claimed victories in the skills they honed in this place. Today, we train here with diligence to honor that history. Edgar stopped walking and gazed up at the wall, speaking to no one in particular. But pathetically, there are many who cannot handle the training and leave satisfied with half-learned skills. Only two lasses, bandits, and thieves in collective come out to welcome you. You two were where the three figures that watched you from a distance, grinning. Edgar turned to you and said, "I bet it's been a while since you've had a chance to go wild and show off what you've said or what you've got with your training. These guys shouldn't pose you to threat. We'll just call this part of your training too." Okay.
Versus Keelik.
Fuck you, Keelik. You little bitch.
Battle 1. Fight.
I missed. Bye-bye. Fuck you. Bandits deserve to die. Next. Hi, Shankma.
Fight.
Oh yeah, I forget the guys are easy at the beginning. Like literally they're like easy mode. Yo! Keelik! Sorry, Maxi! Named after famous streamer Maxi Lopes. Yeah. Bye-bye. Next is a boss battle. Overcome the enemy. After much rigorous training at the Regulus proving grounds, time to pass your final challenge. Wow, combat The assassin's themselves. No restrictions, no special conditions. We'll get ready to get fucked. Attempting to control your rapidly beating heart. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, there's a lot of text. I don't know if I'm gonna read it all. Hi. 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 Ooh, fuck you. I think this is my favorite song in the game so far. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We did it! I have 3,000 gold. Wait, can I buy things in this area? I forget. I got the Coliseum. I miss when games allowed you to unlock things. New area, Thuban. Can I buy things here? I cannot. Oh, I can! Ooh. The razor sword. Give me this. Give me the razor sword. Doesn't this take life for me when I use it? I feel like I remember this game already. Ooh, excuse me. Ugh. Oh, Prime Triple Guard. Yeah, it gives you weaker guard. That's what it is. I'll still use it. Good offense. Fuck it. Give me that offense. If you're in the search of Soul Edge, you should head east. Past the land of Thuban lies the free city of Bennett Nash. I don't know how to say that. With its never-ending flow of people, perhaps you can gather information there. Following Edgar's advice, you set off toward the east. You do not know if you would really find information about Soul Edge and Bennett Nash or not, but it's better than wandering aimlessly. Turn to look back just once. You win this time, said Leon after the battle, but I'll catch up to you soon. Tomorrow I'm going to take the test again. Oh, and I've heard you're searching for the Soul Edge. If that's the case, then surely we'll meet again. I wonder if we do meet again. I don't remember. Seems we're rivals with the same goal. I'm looking forward to our next encounter. You faced forward and began walking. My journey had begun. You shot? Anything new for Link? Oh, what the hell is this? Our most series? I don't remember this. Oh yeah, that looks really cool. That actually looks really cool. I'm out of money though. Oh, new costume for 42k. I forgot. There's a lot of money farm you can do in this game. Sure, I'll put that on. Thuban Ferry. Land 20 hits on the enemy and zero the round. Okay. Okay. Oh god, it's Valdo. Never mind. This might suck ass to do.
Now, two souls are
Two souls.
Final battle. Fight.
Spartan Alexander, hi. Oh wait. I'm out of time. No. I give up. Because I ran out of time. I lost. I need a faster hitter, which is easy. Character select. We go Talon, because I believe I know how to play Talon a little bit. Hi, Solaris. Payback.
Watched over by the
Don't worry, Talon.
final battle. Fight.
Hi Beauty.
Hi. Easy peasy. Oh.
Time's up.
Thank you for bowing. I'm Iron Neophyte now. Class up. What does that do? Fucking nothing. And hi tactical. What's up? Strong gusts of wind prevents you to stop it. Ooh, I know how to beat this guy. I got hit by a car. Goddamn. What the frick? Oh, wrong one. Like you got hit by a car, or you got into a car accident? Some dude hit me down behind the wheel. Oh my god, never mind. It sounds like I hit you in the car.
To arrange their final battle.
This one's a silly fight. Oh god. He died of a heart attack. Oh, that's interesting. What Soul Calibur is this? Number 2. You could easily Google which Soul Calibur has Link in it and you'd get the answer of 2. U62. Oh my god, that's fairly young depending on what was going on. Oh, that's right. They have fucking dungeons in this fucking game. I don't want to buy anything if it's not for like Link. I might buy Talim stuff actually, because I do plan to use Talim. That's very sad, yeah. But he didn't really hit you as opposed to he just, you know, was unable to do anything besides, you know, because he fucking died. You know, rest in peace. Can we defeat her village? Blah blah blah. Make friends. Blah blah. Poisoning the river, killing the fish. You go into the mines. Oh, there's an antidote in there. Isn't this where I fight random lizard men too? Oh, it's not. Ooh, Taki, nice, nice. Ow. She grabbed me? I thought I grabbed her. What the fuck? Uh-oh, lag. Fuck you. Just fucking disparted her ass. Oh, that's right. You don't get to fully heal in these mines. They give you like half health or something. But I'm glad you're okay, Tactical. Sounds like it could have been really bad.
The fighters face a gruesome quest. Final battle. Fight.
No. Who's there? Oh god. I knew it. He was gonna fucking do that to me. I fucking knew it. Mission failed. We'll get him next time. It's the princess. She wants Link back. That's funny. Yeah, Ganon's taking over while Link is over here having fun with Mr. Maxi Lobes. Stop, bitch. Stretch? What the fuck? You really want me to stretch up in here? Oh my god, fuck you. I don't fully heal, right? It's like half health, roughly. Oh, is it because it's the first one, maybe? Maybe because it's the first one.
Versus Yoshimitsu.
Yo! Hi, Yoshimitsu!
The Almighty One.
I love Yoshimitsu, especially when he just turns around and fucking stabs himself to deal half damage to you. Uh-oh. Oh my god. Holy fuck, he almost kicked my ass there. Scared the shit out of me, actually. Yoshimitsu! I remember having fun with him. I was never good. I'd always do the Harakiri attack and just have fun. Bennett Nash. Because you do that and then do a little Beyblade spin and you can do some good damage to everybody, including yourself. The boss defeated in front of their eyes, managing that they're attacking the moment, but cheer up, step forward and stop them. You idiots! Just how much more do you plan to embarrass me today? Promise if I antidote, agree to discuss the situation, blah blah blah. Seems sure to get quite like it. Ooh, Yoshimitsu likes me. Try to drag you back and do a feast. Oh my lord, he fucking fed me. What do we got in the shop? New Link weapon. Ooh, Cane of Burna. Ooh, Cane of Burna. Ooh, wait, Cane of Burna. Megaton Hammer. Give me this one first. I feel like I remember Cane of Burna being useful, but I don't remember. It's been fucking forever. Yeah, give me fucking healing. Garden of all, you cannot hold your footing. Repeat the enemy with the ring out. That's actually really easy. Because Link has one of the best grabs. Charade. Oh yeah, I forgot. Has one of the best grabs for this. Ow. Oh, never mind. He's just gonna go off himself. Thank you. Thank you. He was like, I don't want to deal with that, and just fucking walk off the edge. Isn't Charade just like random character the character? Alright, what do I got here? Heat saber damage, and knocked against the wall, or throws are more effective. Ooh, give me that.
Versus Raphael.
Hi. Sorry, I meant hi. Aye. Ow. Hell yeah, grab his ass. Ow. No. Hiya. Thanks for the free heal. Oh god. No! Do I win? I actually have to beat him. That sucks. Man, that sucks that I actually have to win. I had more health. Technically, I should win there, right? Right? Right?
Versus Raphael.
Bitch.
Fate. Final battle. Fight.
Ooh, but that grab right there. Easy for ring outs. Ow. 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 Bitch. Fuck you. Money. Isn't the Megan Hammer just like really strong? New area. Isn't the area just like a side mission with the like I think these like side areas usually have like really good weapons. As you walk, you understand, blah blah blah. Little more than an animal trail, and reflected from the man, and where the touchiest things. Shinar, blah blah blah. Shinar, blah blah blah. Treasure. You read the secrets. You eventually come in a half buried ruin. Right? It just has, yeah, it just has expensive things. I could buy Yoshimitsu's if I really wanted to, but I don't. Oh, booby trap dungeon. I remember this. This has fucking random ass like stage effects.
The fighters face a final battle. Fight.
Berserker. No. Bye bye. Oh, I remember this game now. One of these ruins just has like the entire fucking map filled, like if it was the final dungeon of Zelda 2. Or Zelda 1, I mean. Ow, he hit me. Oh my god. Oh my god, holy shit. He just fucking like comboed me. I couldn't that first hit just I was stun locked. That guy got hands.
Final battle. Fight.
How did he hit me but I not hit him? Fuck you. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. Ow. Oh. No. Bitch. I thought that would heal me. Oh, that's right. It doesn't fully heal me. Oh my god, I need to actually use my soul charge heal. Okay, I can do this. I hope.
Final battle. Fight.
Uh oh. No way. That range is bigger than I expected. That's what I'll say. I can't even change characters in here either. Health. Bye. Sorry. Bitch.
The Almighty Ones have granted you. Final battle. Fight.
Oh my god, you fucking asshole. Bitch. 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 Oh god. I got so scared. I forgot this has booby traps in it. Yay, healing. That did a lot of healing. Why are the other ones not? Weird. Very weird. They're all berserkers. Bitch. I was trying to kick him off, but I didn't press it fast enough. I want to play this whole game as Link, if I can. Why? I don't know. Oh my god, stop with the berserkers. Oh god. Oh my god, there is no edge guard here. Or edge, like footing, I guess you can call it. Is this the right way to go? I don't know. I'm just guessing. Oh. We'll all be guessing. Oh yeah, we'll all be guessing. There's a good chance this is just a circle, by the way, also, because they just love doing that in fucking like dungeons.
Final battle. Fight.
His has priority over mine. Nope. Bye bye. Oh, this is that kind of a circle, I guess. I'm assuming this is actually the right way to go, because looks like the other one was a circle. The ring up being nice. Oh, he's invisible now. Wonderful. Bye bye. Also, yeah, I think Link has the easiest grab for a ring out because of what he does. If you saw me using it, so like when there's like a ring out mission, literally just use Link.
Watched over by final battle. Fight.
I was gonna bomb him while he was down. Okay. Actually, I think this is the right way to go. Why is this one so long? I guess it is an extra mission, so they probably can make it longer. Like you don't gotta be here.
Final battle. Fight.
Fucking styling on him. Oh my god, I'm gonna keep going this way this time. You know, why can Link never do these kind of roles in any video game?
Watched over by the Almighty. Final battle. Fight.
Oh, there's like higher gravity here because he fell faster. Oh my god. No fucking way I'm gonna die up. Because I couldn't get up in time. I was like, no fucking way he's gonna kill me from fucking one hit. I still gained 100 gold though, so technically not the bad. Worst thing I guess. I was gonna say bad, but not the worst is the right way to say it. Why is this one so much? Fuck you. Bitch. Bitch. Thank you, ready to hit that.
Final battle. Fight.
No. Sorry. I'm still stuck on using the final blow. Speaking of, I kind of want to play Twilight Princess again. I went the right way.
Versus Berserker.
Oh, again.
Now, choose final battle. Fight.
You fucking asshole. Uh-oh. I remember this. The answer is just throw him out. I fucking hate earthquake stages. I forget how to counter them. Is it? I think it's guarding down, like ducking. But I can't remember. Anyway, we did it. What can I buy? Oh yeah, it's nothing I really care about. Here I could buy, yeah, the fucking the Megaton Hammer. Look at it. It's fucking big. Good offense, strong single strikes. I do a lot of single strikes, ladies. Speaking of single, heavy damage against knocked against the ground or wall. Okay. That's on fine. Let them around. Oh, it's a gambling den. I think this is the one where you can fight as many times as you want, and if you die, you just fucking die. And lose all your money. Oh, it's Leon again. Leon!
Final battle. Fight.
How did that miss? Slap. Bye-bye. This isn't the one I was thinking of. There's like an actual gambling one where it's like you start with like 400 gold and you're like, you can keep going and double your winnings. I'm like, okay. To the Haba. Penalisms have gone up if you are damaged. Oh, okay. Cool. Going numb just means they give you like a standing paralysis essentially, so they can just combo you a little easier.
A hero did. Battle 1. Fight.
That was cool. Weapon with a weapon clash. Goodbye. Sorry, I like cracking their backs. It's very polite. Hi, Ivy. Is it Ivy Cervantes, which I don't have unlocked yet, on Valdo. Oh god. Yes, you did. Big booby lady. Oh god. Big booby lady. Who do you think has bigger boobies, me or Ivy? Because this is a very pretty apt comparison between us, honestly. Bitch. Hi, Cervantes.
Final battle. Fight.
Oh god. Oh god. Bye. Got your ankle. Who did I unlock? I'm assuming I unlocked Cervantes through this actually. Cervantes. I knew it. Cervantes. That's another character I was never very good at. Bizarre. I remember this being a lot longer, I'm not gonna lie. Then again, some of the stages are probably gonna be really long. Great Inquisitor at the port, decided to leave the city where the situation grew worse. Ooh, I made a mess of the place. Making off with a small boat, piling out to the lake, glanced back at Benignoch. Left the number of people there, and retracting out of information about Soul Age, and the morning fog, around rolling sound of voices, ripped out into the city. Another busy day, blah blah blah, and now a place called Mizar. Locals, large scale to leaves, recorded version of the guards. No information on Soul Age. Then you truly realize just how difficult the quest for Soul Age was. What do you fucking think? What's in here? New costume for Nightmare. The Cane of Burnout, which I already have. So we buy some Talem weapons then. Side harp. What the fuck are harps? I guess that, technically, right? Crescent Blade. I think I remember liking these ones. Like, I'm trying to go through my memory, like, which weapons did I like? Which weapons did I not like? Force the Bomb. Oh, yeah. It's fucking so funny. And explain he's working for the night by the name of Hero. He too was seeking the Soul Age. It's Hot Potato.
Versus Assassin.
Hi. Sorry.
Fate conspired. Final battle. Fight.
Get away.
Time's up.
I still think the worst actual stage in this game that I do remember, I'm not gonna lie, is one where it's like, hey, there's a bomb strapped to your chest. If you fall, you die. So like it's just full of enemies that have like a lot of knockback attacks. Your health is low. Okay. I can regenerate it. Bitch. I'll fucking cheat.
Versus Yoshimitsu.
Hi. There we go.
Entrust your noble soul in your sword.
Yes. My health's not that low, honestly. So regenerate? It does. Physics check. Okay, hang on. Hang on, I need to pause.
Final battle. Fight.
Alright, where's my toggle for this? Alright, I need to check the physics, guys. Just be ready. My fucking stream deck is exploding. Alright, we got the face. Looks good. Boobies look good. What do you guys think? I think they look pretty good. I also need to make myself a little bigger because my position toggle doesn't put me back where I was before. I think the physics are good. I love that attack. I can't do it very often though. I'm an Iron Apprentice! Doesn't fucking matter. Like, literally the classes don't mean anything. It's just how long have you been playing the game? Timer increases with each enemy you defeat. Difficulty 3! I forgot they have a fucking record like, hey, you tried this 10 times, you lost every time. Young Sung, do I not have him unlocked either? Raise thy sword.
Battle 1, fight!
How much time do I gain? 15 seconds. Okay, that's enough. Took me 10 to beat him, so I'm plus 5. Hey girl, it's not time to die, it's time for your titties. You fucking... Stop. Bitch. Do I gain health? I also gain health, that's good. Almost full health, I'm assuming potentially full health. I don't know how much I would have had. You fuck. Stop. Okay. I lost a lot of time to this guy. Okay, it's basically full health. I guess they don't want the health to be the run killer. They'd rather it be you not having enough time. No. No. Fuck you. I remember Nightmare. I like Nightmare. Oh yeah, Siegfried didn't exist in Soul Calibur 2, did he? Is he a Soul Calibur 3 character? I win. I remember now. I think Siegfried didn't exist back then because he was still like corrupted by Soul Edge. Enemies favor vertical attacks armed with weapons that excel in break. Okay.
Versus Mitsurugi.
Hi. Sorry, wrong calling out. Ooh, this song's nice too.
The ultimate sword. Battle 1, fight. Ready?
Hiya.
You win.
I win. Also, I kind of want to try out Talum because I forget her combos. There's one really cool combo that I remembered, or that I knew of hers. It wasn't very strong, it just does a lot of damage. Or it was a lot of hits, rather. Ride 'em, cowboy! No. Also, I forgot to turn off my blue light filter again. Hang on. The game just started turning red. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Ooh, the Schweizer. Thanks for the free weapon, I guess. Mwah. Sharon's Pus. That could main cost him more than that. Easy was balanced? No. Oh yeah, that's why I like it, because they're just good weapons. Back to the dungeons. I need to look at her combo list because I forgot what the combo is for the one I'm thinking about. Hey, I identify myself.
Fight.
Where's the one I'm looking at? I'm gonna remember just by looking at which one it is. Got it. I hate ice physics. Oh god. Are you fucking serious? I lost because she was technically in the air when she fell. That's a little tilting. Like, it's really not, because it's like these fights are fast, but
Final battle. Fight.
oh god. I win. Yes, I am. I am one with the wind. Please no more ice physics. Oh, we're sinking. I remember this now.
Fight.
What the fuck? Oh, she's healing, right? Oh my gosh, she's just lower in the ground so she can't actually get fucking hit by me half the time. Okay, this pisses me off. There we go. Bitch. Oh, God, this is annoying. I forgot how much the fucking stage hazards suck in this game. Is it ice again? Oh, it's lava. Cassandra, where's your sister, man? Oh god. Sorry, I just had to do it to her. I wish the AI was better at noticing when there's stage hazards around, instead of just playing as if they don't exist. Oh my god, we're in a triangle arena.
Fight.
You bitch. Ooh. Ooh.
Stay down.
Bye.
My heart is still pounding.
Bye. She fucking died. And I mean, she actually died. That was a bottomless ass pit.
Watched over.
My girl. Oh, this is an earthquake stage, isn't it?
Fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Hiya! Looking? Oh hell yeah, dude. Listen. If I can unlock Sophidia, I'll be looking too, trust me. There's one particular grab of Sophia's that I was like,
Fires a sword.
speaking of, never mind, I'm sorry, that's Cassandra.
Final battle. Fight.
Where's your sister? Yeah. Oh, I fucking forgot that's a second 2-hit combo, I guess. You got a second kill outfit? Yeah. Listen, all the characters in this game have pretty good outfits, I'm not gonna lie. Wait, what? Different weapon? Or different fighter? That's cool. Yeah.
You did your best. I respect that.
I went the right way. Nice. I also realized that the boss icon in this looks like.
Sophitia,
Oh, speaking of, hey girl,
the Almighty One's
Win.
final
she is my girl.
fight.
Chill.
Are you okay?
I wish that would be right there. God damn. Oops.
Won't you please give up?
I think I just unlocked her too. I got her. My girl. I think Talim's still my favorite character, like not Link wise. But I do think Sophitia is probably. Oh, what the hell? Different area. Altair. Spirit Sword. Oh, is this where we buy Soul Edge? There's a spot here where you can just buy Soul Edge. Oh, there's no other response you could have made. See strong heart, blah blah blah. I cannot let you pass. You know to pass the gate. You were now certain you were close to Soul Edge. Did it feel like Liana was lying? Soul Edge was real. Blah blah blah. Return to the surface. Wasn't the man was got a Soul Edge. Good, but there was no sign of Soul Edge, but only Liana lying. Oh, she died. E6 Soul Edge of the terrible darkness in his heart. Oh, is this Nightmare? What can I buy? I can buy the art gallery. Chaku. The Chaku. Sophitia. 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 I should try her, see if I remember any combos with her, which the answer is like 90% no. Sophitia. This is literally just Kane of Berna. Team up with the 4 soldiers and defeat all the enemies. Okay. Sophitia. What the fuck?
Come on,
That's not me.
the fighters face a. So, you want me to knock you out?
I know, they're just allies. I don't remember Maxi that well, I'm not gonna lie. Cause he just like all about like combos and stuff, but I'm not very good at it. Okay, I was like, that's not my character. What the fuck happened? Is that Siegfried back there? That's not Cervantes, right? That has to be Nightmare / Siegfried.
All out.
Battle 2, fight.
Watch out. Payback.
No. Ow. Okay, that's fine. I'm not very good with Maxi anyway, so. Oh yeah, Nightmare. I'm actually, if I remember, I'm pretty solid with him. Just fucking stab him.
Let's go. Battle
I'm ready.
fight.
Ah! Come on, Tommy. I remember that line very well. Extra time attack. Extra time attack. Okay, ad break. Ow. Paradise of Altair. You are your worst enemy. Defeat yourself. Okay, I don't want to be Sophitia because they know how to play Sophitia better than me. I will play a character I know how to play.
fate conspired to arrange their battle. Final battle, fight!
Oh god. Bye bye. What did I unlock? Soul Calibur Evil for Shanghua. Wait, isn't Soul Calibur Evil just Soul Edge? Is that not like actually what it's supposed to be? Aldebaran. If anybody knows Soul Calibur lore, definitely let me know. I'm pretty sure Soul Calibur Evil is just Soul Edge, right? Bleh. Not really pushed on by the flow of events, rather you're of your own will and walk forward. Gate allows you to pass through with ease. I apologize for deceiving you, but it was necessary. The Altair priest pointed to a sword as he spoke. What you overcame was your own self. You have proven your strength of your will. Now take this sword, you have earned it. Sword is a particular design, split in two, blah blah blah. Oh, that's why you get the Shanghua Soul Calibur. Furthermore, the sword you knock your hand with, in fact, Soul Calibur. Swords are capable of defeating the cursed blade. People's green rich and weaken the seal, blah blah blah. Oh, that's what's going on. That's why it just corrupted Soul Calibur. Everything had been fine for hundreds of years. They wished by the curse, sword managed to get their hands on the weapon, blah blah blah. You'll do fine. I like how he's like, you'll be fine. Leona, I believe in you. Her condition of the sword itself was incomplete, and its slow should prove useful. Okay. Do I get any weapons here? I have a lot of money, so I can buy weapons. Magic sword! If you're wondering where that's from, that is from, I'm assuming, Zelda 1. Novidia! That's it. That's a mirror shield. It did. What does this do? I don't remember. Doesn't it have like stronger guard impacts? Is that what it is? Reflex attacks. Oh, okay. Honestly, it looks fucking cool. I kind of want to use it. Defeat the enemy within the time limit. Okay.
Versus Berserker.
Oh, hi.
Watched. Final battle, fight!
No. Oh god, I missed. Holy moly! Oh yeah, by reflex attacks, by the way, it literally reflects the damage. He killed himself. Yeah. Sorry, I decided to deal with finishing blow so he didn't just sit there dying slowly. City of Nashira. Prize money doubles with each win. Ooh, this is what I like. This is the one where it's like, hey, you want to double your money?
Versus Cervantes.
Hi.
Now.
Now.
One, fight!
Can't believe I actually dodged that. Oh, do I get health back? Okay, let's keep going. No health back. I should have put the Cane of Burn on, actually.
Two, fight!
Okay. We're doing okay. I can go for another. Like how it's like if you lose, you get nothing, and I think you fail too. It's Lizard. Oh, I might be scared. So Calibur, hi Bikuya. Did you not think that's what it would be? Bye. I like Lizard Man. He's silly. More money. Just excited. Hi. Do you like Soul Calibur or know about it?
But I must.
It's also really funny that Taki literally has like nipples showing on her outfit. Oh, do not fall off. Friggin', you love it? Yeah, me too. I'm doing the Weapon Master. You don't want to talk about nipple showing? There's no nipples on my outfit. Excuse me? Hide Baxi. See if I can win. Ooh, got lucky there. Oh god. Okay. No fucking way. Anyway, I gain nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. Well, we go again. But now that I know that I don't get health back, we change weapons. But yeah, there's no nipples on my outfit. Come on now. Different characters? But it still ends with Maxi, right? I believe. Oh no, different characters, period. Bye. Anyway, Pecunia, how are you doing? Real Twitch, I've never seen his nipples ever. I mean, just because there might be art of it doesn't mean it's ever happened live on Twitch. Come on now. Ooh. No, get away. Okay. I still really like this song too.
Battle 3, fight.
Never shown her with nipples? Nope, never. Not on stream. And if they ever was or were out, it's obviously just because it's cold. That is a completely natural thing to do. Rufford, nice. You know what game I want to play, by the way? I've seen it being posted all over Twitter.
You're definitely not my type.
Aww.
Battle 4, fight.
You guys have probably seen it too. It's called Densha Attack. Bye. So cold, July's very cold. Yeah, exactly. July's known for being cold. Come on now. We all know this.
Final battle, fight.
Plus it was in June, so like extra cold, right? Ooh, okay. I got money! And lots of it. Ooh, big money. This is one of the stages where you get a lot of money in, not the one where you get the most in though. Oh, that being said, let's bring Sophie out. Builder receives damage. Sorry, I don't want that. Emma's weapon has the ability to guard break. Okay, so just don't guard. Understood. I don't remember how to play with Sophia.
Mina,
Repent.
Rob Hunt.
a hero.
But I will try.
Okay, here we go.
Final battle, fight.
Sorry.
Oh god. I forgot some Mina's in this game.
Take this.
I still wish that was me. That's right. Don't guard. Don't guard.
This can't be.
I don't remember combos with her, so let's not try and say we did.
Versus Songmina.
I am happy that people do know and appreciate this game. I was worried I was gonna play a random fighting game. No one was gonna like it.
Here I come.
Bitch. Yeah. Do I unlock Songmina here? That must be what it is, right? Yeah, I figured usually when you beat them once, you unlock them. The Siam ruins and Kratomeria Ridge. What does this do? Guard impact the enemy's attack. Okay. I know how to do that. Will I be good at it? No.
Versus Cassandra.
Here I come.
Here I come.
A hero.
Wind.
Final battle. Fight.
Oh god. Gotcha. I do like guard impacts being like a different version of parrying. The enemy's weapon absorbs life. Okay, I want a better character then. Better character isn't for me.
Versus Yun Sung.
Hi.
Now, two souls.
Raise thy sword.
closely entangled. Final battle. Fight.
Chill. Stop kicking me. Chill, buddy, chill. Enjoy your backbreaker. There you go. Nice and relaxed. Extra standard survival. Sorry, survival standard. Survival mode. Underground judo. Time limit. Bastion fell to his knees. Damn you! You'll regret not finishing me off. Blah 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 blah. Who's viral? I don't know. Who's viral? I don't fucking know. I have a time limit. I just gotta run. Time to speed run.
The fighters face a
Ivy.
final
Hey girl.
fight.
Bye. Sorry, I threw in the river. I like Ivy. I've never been good with her.
Final battle.
Go, 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 go. Oh god, careful. Bye. Game is so fast, dude. It's kind of crazy. I love fast fighting games. I don't like ones that take forever to fucking win.
The final battle.
Cervantes. I forgot he has that kind of a cool move. Oh god. Oh my god, how much health do I gain back from this? Okay, almost full health right here. It is full health. I was almost dead. I don't know if I go the right way, but I will believe I went the right way. And if I fail, I just do it again.
Now, final
Why are you giving me all the ranged characters? Hi.
watched over by the Almighty Ones, they unleash their fury.
Oh my god, I swear to god, I just got DM'd by a bot on Twitter. Red guy, hi. Thanks for the follow. Hi, hey, period. Oh my god, are you angry? Hi. Anytime anyone types a period, I get scared. Hi, welcome in. I made the right way. Excuse me. Can't enable wide screen options menu main menu? Nope. I liked 4x3. Well, I lose. But I didn't even know that was a thing. I legitimately I didn't know. Once I get out of this, like, I'm not sure if I can do it here.
Versus assassin. Now, battle
Don't worry, don't worry. I can check. I'll be honest, I didn't know that was a thing. I've played this game a lot as a kid. I don't remember ever having the full widescreen option. Either that or I was a dumb kid and I never really knew. Like the check and stuff. Just classic full screen? Yeah, that's all I do. Besides, usually widescreen things in games that like aren't meant for it just stretch things. It doesn't look nearly as good, honestly. Oh god. Oh shit. I fucking knew it. I knew I was gonna lose to him. As soon as he did that, I'm like, I'm too far away to like prevent him from attacking me. Kicking my butt. But anyway.
assassin. Battle 1. Fight.
Ow. Fuck you. Fuck you. Get bounced. Nerd.
Final battle. Fight.
Goodbye. Big money. No whammies. Labyrinth has been added. Doesn't that one have like multiple different variations too? Rehead. Alright, let me see if you're not trying to one guy me. If you are going to eat a butt. Where is it? Will it look good? That's the thing. Oh look, it didn't even do anything. That's the funniest thing. It did nothing. Maybe it requires a game restart, but I'm not gonna restart the game. I can't believe we just lost 2 against 1. Impressive. Hobbs and Shaw, no wonder. Ugh, Vero guess you to face pursuers. Ugh, excuse me. You want me to remember the directions? Let's be defending your enemies. Head over the exit. Just about 200 rivers, vision from bastion of the pre-sale to your said. Bleh. Sorry, there's water in my throat. You knew that the core sword was not located there, but one could easily be convinced the soul lay hidden in this hellish land if one did not know better. It's understandable that Viraj came here in search for the soul edge. Went to the gate in Mizar, slightly cleaned in two. Flash briefly your mind. Okay, what's in here? Any new weapons that I care about? Doesn't look like it. Give me these. Oh, these look cool. They do not look like Tonfa. I think that's what the weapon's called, Tonfa. You know what I should get? Mitsurugi weapons. Because I do remember Mitsurugi being very good for cheese. Kind of want Yoshimitsu weapons too. I want to try out Yoshimitsu. Kagekiyo! I feel everything's basically the same weapon, just with a different banner for him. Receive heavy damage when knocked against the ground or walls. Okay, pretty easy.
Versus Maxi.
Wait, is this technically full? This is widescreen, but it's not widescreen. Hold up. Yeah, it doesn't look good. This looks really bad. What the fuck happened? Yeah, everything just got stretched. I'll change it right now though. Why is he the only one doing actual damage to me? Oh my god, just enough. Yeah, this looks off. It's like the full screen is on, but it's not at the same time. Hang on, let me take it back away. I think I know why, but it don't matter to me. Get that shit out of here. Get that disgusting ass stretch out of here. Neither you or your enemy can guard. Okay. That's not too bad, actually. Oh, hi, Leon. Leon!
Now, two souls are final battle. Fight.
Being Link is really funny when they can't guard, because Link has such little actual combo potential. All of his hits his attacks just hit like a fucking truck. Huangsho Palace / Phoenix Coat. Red guy, you're really funny. Thanks for following just to tell me to put on the white shirt, it doesn't even work, and then unfollow. Okay, bye, loser.
Now, final battle. Fight.
Just like Kevin, a loser. A loser. Why was that so easy? Like, actually, why was that so easy? I guess it wasn't actual Soul Edge, it was a fragment of Soul Edge. Oh. Merrick. Like the final boss of Yu-Gi-Oh! Merrick. Sorry, it's Merak. Like macaque. She's about to run into the whole end of Merrick. Reaches to the third of the 3 gates of Sealed Soul Edge, as well as the Great Shrine, Grand Shrine of Merrick. Now, is even ordinance familiar? Of course, few knew that the shrine was sealing the cursed sword. Oh, lost track of Varel, and the pirates for the gate. Carried back to the second gate, guarded by Bastion. Gated to be destroyed. Bastion was nowhere to be found. Oh, he's fucking dead. They just shudder as you recalled your battle in the Forbidden Grounds. Passing through 2 gates and chasing after Varel, you're under Merrick, but the landscape was as far as from the idea of the Holy Land. Anyone could imagine. Terror raiders, a righteous land of destruction, craters of black ash litter the ground, bridges and roadways destroyed, and pillars of black smoke on the horizon. Varel murdered everybody. New weapons. Bigger odds. Oh, that thing doesn't even fit on the fucking screen. Give me the muscle, but I'm out of money. I need to stop buying random ass weapons. What is the bigger monster? Is it just literally just big range? Requires energy to wield. You know what that means? I lose health to attack. Timer increases within each enemy defeat. Enemy's weapons penetrate defenses. Okay, time to not guard again. I guess defeat guard impact is all I could do. Dick. It's my song. Bye. Is this a unique remix, by the way? I think this is a unique remix, like very slightly. You bitch. Oh, Draco Heart? Oh yeah, no. Like, Link isn't just in here. The first one? I don't think I ever played the first Soul Calibur. I know I forget, I think I played a game called Soul Blade for the PlayStation. I don't think it's the same thing as Soul Calibur. I think it's the precursor to it. Dick. Ew, I don't like this outfit on Ivy. You're covering your titties, man. Don't do that. Ooh, oh my gosh, you killed me. That did a lot of damage to me, actually. Ivy was a part of the Renaissance. I don't care. She fucking needs her titties out, man. That's a way better design than her French Revolution. Dick, give me my health back. Man, I need Link's final weapon because it's a really good weapon. Is it true the bigger her milker is, the stronger she is? I don't know. You ask me. I think the answer is yes. Well then. I also really like Raphael because his battle stance is very fluid and, you know, what you would expect from somebody who is practicing fencing. There we go. That's better. Ass and titties out. That's perfect. Oh, she's trying to hit me with that attack. Perfect. Let me give you a backbreaker, bitch. Is it Sungmina next? It is, right? No, Shanghua. I'm not very good with Shanghua. Goodbye. That's 5,000 gold, goddamn. I guess as I'm getting further in the game, they're giving me more money. The crystal mine and the ability to knock back the enemy has been increased. Health decrease over time. Oh, that's easy fix. And 5 hookahs are bigger. And your sword that has more back pain. I mean, maybe her power is stored in her titties, like a lot of women. Oh god. Oh god. No, I lost because he fucking did the quick hit, the quick jab. I don't remember I ever played 5, did I? No, I think I played 4 for sure. I don't think I played 5. I might have played 5 though. I don't know. Jesus Christ, buddy. Shit, I know what he's trying to do there. Goodbye. Home run! Sorry, the home run derby was on Monday, so... Oh, new area. Knocked enemy back and you did as well. Combos. That's actually not too bad.
Versus Voldo.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
Now, final battle. Fight.
Bonk. Okay, we'll go for the next area. Oh, Daily Milk, enjoy. Are Ivy's tits actually canonically their dailies now? Nope. It is not actually a daily. I just do that to give people the illusion that there's a daily. I don't like doing that because a lot of times it just spams the chat. Like the bot does, no, rather than like the redeem. The location you saw was located to the north of Warntorn Merrick, Pollux, known for being the birthplace of an ancient hero. Oh. What's in here? Anything cool? Doesn't look like it. Give me Monohoshizao. Ooh, that looks cool. Being mentally manipulated by a woman? Nope. That's not my intent at all, but that is basically what happened. I like this one the best. The banners, you know, not uniform, I guess. This is the kind of shit I hate. The ground is strewn with landmines. Falling down means certain death. Only for me. The enemies can fall down all they want. They don't trigger the landmine. It is specifically friendly fire is off in this area. And I'm dead. So fucking dumb.
Versus Talim.
Bitch.
The final
Alright.
battle. Fight.
Yep. Like I said, one hit and I die. Because all they need is one particular hit that just does that to me. That's not manipulation though, Pecunia.
Versus Talim. The final battle. Fight.
Jesus fuck, man. You just do the same fucking combo to start. I guess I should prepare a guard break? Maybe? Maybe? I mean, this is just a harder area, so like I could just not do it. If I really wanted to. But no, I ain't no bitch.
Fight.
Mama didn't raise no bitch. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry, this was friendly fire was on. I thought it wasn't. I think those other areas. I'm assuming this one's like the first time you see it. What if I wanted to manipulation? That's fetishy and that is not allowed.
Fate conspired to arrange their battle. Battle 1.
Oh my god, there's a lot of people here. Gotta go quick.
You win.
It's top.
Battle
Stop using this outfit. Give you the better ones. Ow. Bye. How much health do I get back? It's like a 40%. It's not quite half exactly. Ah!
Battle 3.
I like Yoshimitsu. He's a silly guy. Bone borrower. Whose bones are you borrowing? What's up? Hopefully not mine. Bitch.
You win.
You win.
Don't waste my time.
Hey girl.
Let's go.
Look at them nipples. And the titty physics.
Fight.
Don't resist. Evil.
Oh god. Stop. I fucking guard broke. Sorry, guard impact. I lose. Because I was way too close to death. I'm dying.
Voldo. Battle
Ivy's what killed me.
fight.
Bye. You win. Sorry, Gwyn, the character from Legends EA. Got milk? Who remembers that slogan? But the answer is yes, of course. How did you know?
You win.
It is I.
3. Fight.
Namu. God, I love milk. Is it Milm? Man, I love milk. Put in that in the email section. What, the got milk sign?
You win.
What do you mean?
Battle 4.
We have that, the milk one. Yeah, we have the sip, and it's a milk one. That's why I never got rid of it, because it's just it's funnier how much like it makes sense for what the stream is now. Yeah. Yeah, we have it. Just gotta be sub to use it, I think. Pretty sure. I don't think it's a follower emote. I should make it a follower emote though. I have to like readjust my emotes around, I think. Oh god. Wait, what? How did that hit me? No. Oh. Fuck you. Ow. Oh, that's right. You have to enter that from the backside, I guess, technically. Airborne time has increased due to blasts of wind from below. I do have a bow, so I do have technical aerial combos. I like how Kilik has a little V for Vendetta on his cheek.
Final battle. Fight.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't expecting the one shot. I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting the one shot. Sorry, I got a fucking notification on Twitter. I gotta sneeze again. Bleh. The enemy's health recovers over time. I need a stronger weapon then. I kind of want to use the bigger on sword because it's just a funny weapon. Oh, Viral's Nightmare. Okay.
Final battle. Fight.
Grab him, throw him out. Bye. I don't win. Okay. I win. Look how much health I had. I win. I got really lucky that that throw was at the perfect angle to actually be a ring out. New costume for Nightmare. I do like how after this game they're like, you know what? Human Nightmare should be a thing. Let's make Siegfried a character. Algol. I think Siegfried is probably, potentially cooler than Nightmare is sometimes. Viral collapsed. His face showed a look of surprise, as if he could not believe that he actually lost. I see, so you have the Spirit Sword. Think that feeding on the power made me more vulnerable. I never considered that. He had the power of Soul Edge within himself. Tristy, the guard of the gate, barely managed to talk. Casey decided to prevent the cursed sword from getting out. He saw through the way they worked. Using methods unknown, he called to power the dark sword onto himself in order to pass through the gates. The gates deliberately allowed him through because their very purpose was to seal that power inside. The power that Vero contained in the Forbidden Grounds was that of Soul Edge itself. Mizar, Aldebaran, and Merrick. Vero had fallen with the 3 gates destroyed. Soul Edge was in an extremely dangerous state. Someone needed to keep watch over Soul Edge until the preparations for the creation of the new barrier was completed. May I ask this of you? I don't fucking know. Fuck you, the Land of Exiles. What weapons do we got in here? New Link weapons? Doesn't look like it. New costume for Talon? No, maybe I'll save money for that. I'll buy this though. Ooh, these are cool. Very simple. Only the weapon enemies weapon visible. Ooh, invisible enemies. Ooh, who's it gonna be?
Versus Astaroth.
That's annoying.
The Almighty Ones have granted you final battle. Fight.
Can't grab him. Stop. Bitch. Ancient Amphitheater. Unseen forces push the combatants together. A bonus is available during the matches. What does that mean? Smoony? What's Smoony?
Versus Cassandra.
What's Smoony?
Fate conspired to battle one. Fight.
Oh, that's what it is. Shmoney, okay. It's basically a reason for you not to ring them out. This is where you farm money, I'm pretty sure. I think this area is where you farm money. 'Cause look how much money I already got. 8k from that first one. Fuck. Oh god. Wee. I lost like probably 3k in there that I could have got from beating him. Okay, bye. Alrighty, a little bit more. Please don't lose to Mitsurugi at the end. No! Oh, thank God the zero counts as a second. Oh, look at that money! I am so glad zero counts as a second. Other games they would have made zero not count. Try that outfit. Oh, never mind. I regret my decision almost instantly. Only one part of the enemy can be seen, so it's not... I remember this! If you're wondering what that means, I believe I'm fighting Charade specifically.
The almighty ones have granted you a
Ooh,
sword.
No Turning Back is a great song too.
Final battle. Fight.
It basically requires me to do vertical hits. Bye-bye. Chapter clear. There's what, 2 more fights that I saw, right? Or was it just one? Oh, there's one from another area, but still. Antares. Oh, there's so many areas I don't have yet. How many chapters are there? I don't remember. The final battle, that can't be right. Excellent work. The dark energy that infested Soul Calibur was washed away. I think it is the end, because there's like bonus areas that are really hard, but they're not considered part of the story. Man, am I done with this game already after one stream? That kind of sucks. I would have liked to play this game more. Spirit Sword's form changed and it began to pulse with holy energy. Eventually, it had giant beams transformed into tiny points of light, which floated to the air, heading southeast for Antares, the land where the cursed sword lay sealed. The old man, seeing your look supplied, spoke thusly. Do not worry. When the time comes, you two will surely meet again. The sword naturally seeks out the one who's most suited to wield it. I've been waiting for you, Rin. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but things are not faring well. What I waited for you upon your return to the Grand Shrine of Merrick was the news that while you were in Ogle, Leon had entered Antares, the land where the demonic sword was sealed. He infiltrated the shrine when Tristy was gravely wounded and was in no condition to fight. Before Tristy finished speaking, you were already out the gate and on your way. Costumes? Oh my gosh, 76k for a Cassandra costume. Ooh, I like how this looks. Your health is low. Oh, I can heal that off. Hang on.
Versus Talim.
Hi. I don't really like this outfit, but hi.
Fighters face battle 1. Fight.
The health is not really that low. I just realized I really like all of the songs in this game. They're all really good battle themes, and they don't like scream fighting games, so this could be easily in like the background of like music while you're chilling, you know. Bye.
You win.
All right, let's get this over.
Hey, girl.
3, fight.
Also, you know what's kind of funny? I feel like a lot of recent games, if they had this style of costume for the character, they'd give them like battle shorts, you know, to not show off like their underwear. But this game was just like, nah, just you can see their panties underneath the costume. I think it's a very interesting design decision.
Nothing personal, but I must win.
Battle 4, fight.
Stay down.
I just realized I have no other costumes for Link. I'm pretty sure there's a Zora tunic outfit in this game. Goodbye. Whee. Bronze Batala. My back. The fucking maze, right? Yep.
The fighters face a gruesome quest to final battle. Fight.
No. Goodbye.
Fate. Final battle.
Yeah.
Fight.
Goodbye. I like games with ring outs. It's very funny. It's a very silly concept. You don't gotta be a better gamer, you just have to get them out of the arena.
Now. Final battle. Fight.
Bitch. Oops. Also, I just realized Link has some they're custom sound effects for this game, right? They're not just like sound effects taken from other games. This is a small arena. It's like we're playing Keijo up in here. And if you don't know what Keijo is, I hate to say you're not cultured.
Entrust your noble.
I think Ruby knows.
Fight.
Good culture, yeah. I didn't see it when it released. I saw it a couple years after the fact, but I did look at it and acknowledge its existence. It is very good culture though. It's very funny. I love it when anime take a silly concept and go really fucking hard on it. That's why I liked Food Wars the first couple seasons. And then I stopped watching because it stopped being in English. At the time, at least. I don't know. There must be new ones at this point.
Battle. Fight.
Because I'm very much one that I would rather not read an anime if I could help it. That's why I don't mind dubs versus subs, whereas some people hate dubs. Goodbye. That's not full health, is it? Oh, it is. Dub is from time to time. Yeah, some dubs are good. Obviously, not every dub is, and there's more quality to some studios' dubs than others. Obviously, that's true. But like, you can't just sign off on every dub as being terrible without at least giving it like an episode to listen to what the voices sound like. My favorites, I watch both. Yep. Like some of my favorite dubbed animes, they are on the older side, but they are some of my favorites. Dragon Ball, obviously. Yu Yu Hakusho, peak. Yu-Gi-Oh is okay. I know there's some spots that people say are better in Japanese, but I like the Yu-Gi-Oh as is. It's very funny at times. What was I gonna say? Pokemon, the original. Like, ugh, some of those are so funny. I could use my frying pan as a drying pan. Code Geass is like my #1 anime to watch on both. Like the combination of Johnny Young Bosch and Yuri Lowenthal as like, as I guess you call them main characters, not protagonists, not opposite sides. They're both protagonists. What else did I watch in English that I prefer in English? Food Wars, that's one of them. What else? Oh, what's it called? I forgot what it's called. I think that might be the only like 5 or 6 that I've watched in English that I prefer in English. Plus, some animes just don't have a dub. Like, there's a lot of animes that I've seen that I might not prefer in English, but I've only seen them in English. Just because I was watching them in college with friends that weren't necessarily weebs. They didn't care about subs versus dubs, but it was more so we were watching them together. So like, we didn't want to crowd across. I think it was a laptop screen that we were watching on, so we just decided to put on dubs. That way we don't have to be like crowded across the screen to all read. Oh my god, that did so much damage. But like some animes that I watched in college that were in English versus not was like Melancholy of Haru Suzumiya, watched in English. I watched Ari the Scarlet Ammo in English. What else? Blue Exorcist, I watched in both. I think I preferred Japanese for Blue Exorcist though. I didn't hate Blue Exorcist in English, I think I preferred in Japanese. What else was there? I did watch a fair amount of anime with my college roommates. I just can't remember them all because it's been so long. You don't like Blue Exorcist so much? Why didn't you like it? Oh, just the vibe. Interesting. Fair. Okay, I'm not gonna say no, I'm just interesting. Anyway, the game is technically done, but there's a lot of side stories here. The vibe, yeah, it's fine. That's fair. There's some anime just don't vibe with you. What was I gonna say? Another anime that I watched in English. I'm pretty sure I've never seen it in Japanese, but I do remember watching it in English. You're also weirdest cut of One Piece. That's fair. Again, it don't matter. Some animes you like, some you don't. Even some popular animes you like, some you're not going to. Like, doesn't mean your taste is bad. It just means sometimes you just don't like that kind of anime or that particular vibe. That's fine. Like, there's people who love Dragon Ball Z, hate Dragon Ball GT, hate original Dragon Ball, hate Dragon Ball Daima, just because they don't like the adventure aspects of Dragon Ball. They care just about the fights. Anyway, other animes that I watched in English, specifically because I was watching them when I was out of college at home, watching it with family who doesn't read the fastest, so I just decided to watch it in English with them. I watched Erased with my family, which I watched the first 2 episodes on my own, and I kept watching it, and then like people got home from work and was like what the fuck is this, what's going on? And I'm like so this is the story. He's like, oh my god, this is really interesting, like, are we gonna keep going? I'm like, yeah, we'll watch another episode. We watched like half of the show in one day just because people were so interested in it. I'm not saying what Erased is about because I don't want to spoil it for people who want to watch it. I forget what the name is in Japanese, but the name in English is called Erased. If you haven't seen it, I would absolutely give it a watch. It is 100% a thriller anime rather than like action or horror or anything like that, right? It is a thriller because it just, you have something that you're trying to figure out, and just as you go on, you're like, oh shit, this is what's happening, and the character doesn't know it. Like, you learn things before the character does. Anyway, the other anime that I watched in English, this one was on my own, but I did watch it, was Summertime Rendering, which if you've never seen Summertime Rendering, also go watch that. But I think I've mentioned this before and people have watched it in this stream. That's a really good anime, but I also didn't really like it overall, if that makes sense. Without spoiling it, it has 2 seasons technically, right? Because it's a 24 episode anime, so you kind of think of 12 episodes as 1 season in like the anime world. And the first season, really fucking good. It's like a monster anime, like a monster horror like anime, and then the second half just randomly becomes a shonen anime. And like, I don't hate it. Also, what the fuck is it called? Womb Music? Look at that shit. Additional character voice production. Womb Music. What the fuck? But like, yeah, just halfway through the anime, it just becomes a shonen anime, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this on top, like, on top of what it was before, you know? That's just me. What's the Dungeon? Nope. I have not seen a lot in pretty much any anime in the last like 4 or 5 years. Not for any reason other than I haven't. Nothing really seems to have caught my eye. There's an anime that somebody mentioned to me where it's a kaiju falls in love with a human. Like, it's airing right now, and I'm like, oh, it seems cool, but it still doesn't really like I'm not like dying to watch it, if that makes sense. I don't know what that one's called, but you guys will probably know it because like everyone's going crazy about it because it's like a cute anime girl with purple hair, and then she just like transforms into fucking Godzilla, and like so has like the blush, and is like, I don't know if they're gonna hate me with this form or some shit like that, because I saw like a clip of it somebody posted. But like, yeah, they're just I don't know. I don't really care for much anime these days. Maybe it's just because there's just too much hype surrounding some of it sometimes. I think the most recent anime I watched, you're not gonna hate you. Please don't hate me for this. I found it on the high seas because it is a High Five exclusive anime, and I don't want to fucking pay for High Five. It is called. Shit, what's it called? I have it downloaded. Hang on, I gotta find it. Where is it? Where is it? Like, actually, where is it? I lost it. Yeah, I think I lost it. I can find it. I just gotta go to my really slow old hard drive that is probably on its deathbed, so I need to make sure I get my anime out of there. Let's go find it while this thing finishes up. Users, me. Downloads. Oh, no, it's not. Desktop, that's where it is. It is called... Where are you? That's what it's called. God damn it, how would I forget? It's called Vivi. Fluorite Eyes Song. If you've never heard of it, I implore you, go find it online. If you don't want to pay for High Five, feel free to go sailing the seven seas to look for it. It is genuinely a really good anime. The best way I can explain it, Hatsune Miku saves the world. Oh, that's right. It's just a harder version of this game. Whatever, I'll play a little bit. Oh, excuse me. But if you don't really want to look for it, look up the intro to Vivi. V-I-V-Y. Fluorite Eyes Song. It sounds exactly as it's written. The opening is genuinely pretty. And it also has an opening that sounds like a Vocaloid song. Sorry. No, you're not. If you guys would like, I can post it in Discord later. Perfect.
Versus Ivy.
Ooh, boobies.
Entrust your noble soul. Battle 1. Fight.
Okay. British. Hell yeah. Broke her back.
Battle 2.
Another thing about modern anime these days is everything seems like it has a hook, if that makes sense. Like, nothing is as it seems. Like, oh, you have a cute slice of life anime. And then suddenly like, basically everything tries to be like Madoka Magica these days. Where it's like, it has a cute concept, and then it suddenly is not cute. I'm kind of just tired of that. Or everything's an isekai because all the fucking what is it, graphic novels are being fucking turned into anime. Jesus, chill. Holy fuck, Ivy! What the fuck happened there? She just decided to go oingoing boingoing mode on me. God damn. Holy shit.
Versus Ivy.
Because I called her British, I'm sorry.
Battle 1.
Holy crap. Bitch, take that. Just for being a punk and fucking perfecting me. I'm not ashamed to admit I suck at fighting games. No. You bitch. Okay. Stop. Oh god. Oh god. Oh no. I have no health against Nightmare. Actually no health. I get one shot by him. I'm like 90% sure I get one tapped by him. He went for the kill and not to guard my like dash attack. Ooh. The enemies have strange weapons. Isn't this like the funny weapons that they have?
Versus Sophitia.
Like the ones that just have like random sound effects. Is it not?
Fight.
They are. Yeah. Hi, it's like Mina. Oh my god. I wish these joke weapons had like an actual benefit besides just having silly sound effects attached to them, otherwise being pretty much useless weapons. Oh, like Necrid, I forgot. Is Necrid still in Soul Calibur 6? I hope he is. Link has the butterfly net, it's so cute. Goodbye. There's gonna be only one. Land 20 hits on the quick enemy and survive the round. Need a faster character then. Who would be better for this? I think the answer is still Talon.
Versus Tucky.
Payback.
Now, two souls are fiercely entangled.
Is this announcer still being the announcer? Do I not have enough time for this? It's not because she's quick, I just did not have enough time to get the hits in. What the fuck? Bye.
Versus Tucky.
Are you okay?
Nipples. I can't not see them anymore. One more. Got it.
Time's up.
Whew.
I failed.
I just had to fucking spam the A button there. Ooh. Ooh. Listen, if we're trying to get this thing has strong winds and we're being pushed to each other, oh, I need to be here.
The final battle. Fight.
Bye. Bye. I'm just gonna play a little bit more and finish up pretty soon. Don't want to do that. Gravity's weaker. Ooh. I think I might do just this one or two more missions and then we'll finish up.
Final battle. Fight.
Goodbye. No way. How the fuck did I lose that? I guess I lost a tie, technically, potentially. I don't know.
Versus Berserker. Final battle. Fight.
Stretch? Okay, hang on. Ow! My fucking face. Stop! Oh god. I fucking knew he was gonna reach me. Oh, lag. Nah, thank you.
Versus Berserker.
Oh yeah!
Final battle. Fight.
How the fuck did he hit me but not me? Hit him. Oh, I'm gonna die here. I fucking tried to parry, not parry, but guard impact, and I couldn't. I hate that attack. And I say that as somebody who has literally used that attack of Astaroth to cheese the game out.
Berserker.
Yeah, I mean, is it a special holiday?
Final
No?
battle.
Why are you asking? Oh, I got it, won that one. It is July 16th, so I don't think that's a holiday. Oh, excuse me. Different outfit. I debuted this a little bit ago. It is not a holiday. It is just a new outfit, so I'm using it.
The almighty. Final
Pause a guard break. Okay, fine.
fight.
Easy. It's the Link has one of the easiest like guard break and unbreakables you could use. Some of these are a little too long, so I don't really want to do all of them. Anyway, we'll just finish up here. I don't want to go too late. Maybe I'll play this again next week just to finish up these last few missions. I don't know. Depends if you guys liked it or not. I have a feeling you guys did, but maybe it's just a one stream thing. Let's go back over here. Where are my wings at? Where are my wings at? There are my wings. Let me get my music on. Okay. I think it looks beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I love it. Thank you for stream. Yeah, I'm sorry it's the only stream I have today or this week, guys. But yeah, it be what it be. So I don't think I'll be streaming tomorrow. There's like a 95% chance I don't. Just because I do have plans. Weather's a bitch. Yeah. Yeah, it's summer. It is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. It feels really bad when I only get to stream one day a week, but plans be plans and weather be weather. So I will not catch you guys till next week. Where's the weather like next week? Just so I can tell you guys how it's gonna be. Looks like it's gonna be about as hot as this week. So next week it looks I only have. Let me check. Can I check the 15-day forecast? What's the weather looking like? Jesus Christ, fucking ads, bro. Next week it's looking okay. It's looking like there might be a small chance Wednesday doesn't happen next week, just because it is about as hot as it could possibly be, and potentially not be comfortable streaming weather next week. But I will do my best to make sure I stream every single day next week, or the usual 3 days next week. So what's gonna end up happening is next week I will for sure bring back Stellar Blade, whatever day it was, or it falls on. Sorry. Will that be anyway? Yeah, thank you guys. I don't think I want to do another hand cam until the weather does mellow out a little bit more. Just so I don't fucking sweat my balls off while I'm opening cards. So that'll probably wait till probably August is my guess, somewhere around there. Hydrate. Yeah, I've been drinking a lot of water. Anyway, yeah, so next week I think the streams are gonna be, they're probably gonna be back. I don't have plans for, actually next week is not, no, I was gonna say, is next week Spider-Man? No, that's 2 weeks from now. That is 2 Fridays from now is Spider-Man. So next week should be a three stream day. I'll probably do Stellar Blade. I'll probably do something new for retro besides this. I don't know what I want to do for retro anymore. Just because there's a lot of options. There's like, you know, the classic like random games like Twisted Metal or Soul Calibur. I could do like a Zelda game, something old school that like I've played before. Or I could do something I've never played before, something bullshit. I don't fucking know. I legitimately don't know what I want to do for retro, but we'll figure it out. Should I just, I'm trying to think, should I do Stellar Blade both days next week? I might do something else besides Stellar Blade. I might bring up Densha Tech actually. And if you guys don't know what Densha Tech is, from what I've seen of it, it looks very much like on rails Tony Hawk, but you're a train instead of a human. If that makes sense. Like you're in a stage, you have missions to do, and you're just like grinding all over the place like a skateboarder would. I don't know. Maybe I'll buy that. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm all done for now. I'm gonna go cool off. Maybe take a cold shower. Fucking get this sweat off of me, and I will catch you guys sometime next week. Okay? It should be. Damn it, my stream deck is fucking breaking again. It should be when my stream deck starts working. Wednesday, but I'll push the schedule as soon as I can. But it should be a full schedule next week. But yeah, you guys have a good night. I will catch you guys on Discord. Catch you guys wherever you see me. And yeah, catch you guys sometime next week, okay? Have a good night. Bye.